Hello, Jasmin. How you doing? Good to see you again here, and I'm glad I'm having you here on my show. So, tell me what you're gonna do tonight.
So I'm going to sing "Don't Know Why" by Norah Jones.
Why not? Do good. So, whenever you're ready, we are ready.
Perfect.
I don't know why I didn't come. I let you buy a house of fun. I don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come. When I saw the break of day, I wish that I could fly away instead of kneeling in the sand, catching teardrops in my hand. My heart is drenched in wine, but you'll be on my mind forever. Out across the endless sea, I would die in ecstasy, but I'll be a bag of bones, driving down the road alone. My heart is drenched in wine, but you'll be on my mind forever. Something has to make you run. I don't know why I didn't come. I feel as empty as a drum. I don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come. I don't know why I didn't come. Thank you.
Stephanie!
Hi.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good. I'm just fixing my camera so I'm like in the middle of the screen. That's better.
That's right. So thank you very much for being here today with me on Borna Kazerani Show. Do you want to say hi to those who are watching us now
Of
and later?
course. Hello, everyone.
I've got lots of questions for you here, and then I'm gonna start my questions. But as I've said, thank you very much for being here today. After a
Well,
few
thanks
months,
for inviting me.
you're welcome. You're welcome. And after a few months, we made it. So I care a lot about what you do, and you're one of the fewer people whose art actually makes the environment a better place to live. And tell me, where did this idea come from to turn discarded objects into art?
It started quite by chance, like usually in art. Yeah, I mean, I've been invested in the environment or talking about the environment since 2015. Before that, I would sculpt miniature food, so very, very specific, very niche. But the environmental question took more and more space in my own life. So I wanted to talk about it in my work. And so back at the time, I changed my lifestyle a lot, and I turned to a mostly vegan lifestyle. And so I wanted to talk about it, but in a positive way. So I did a challenge in 2015 where I did sculpt one different fruit or vegetable miniature every day. And that kind of prompted me to change my art more after that, because I felt like I could not go further in miniature food with that. And after that, I was just like searching and struggling to how do I talk about this, because it's a very serious issue, and it's a bit dark, to be honest. It's a bit depressing. So but I wanted, to talk about it in a colorful way, to like, kind of with hope, something like that. And yeah, I was very interested in growth and mushrooms and all the tiny things in life or in nature. And then I just had the idea to use an object and to like have something pour out of it. And from there, I was like, that's actually interesting to use human-made objects and to put them with nature growing on top. And yeah, that's where it started.
And you've been doing it really in the best way. The first time I saw your page on Instagram, I didn't know exactly what kind of artist I was facing, because your colorful works, both in sculpture and painting, were so stunning that I immediately fascinated by them. And the more I looked, the more I saw that you were both an amazing painter and a creative sculptor. And
you're way too kind. That's okay.
I love it. I love what you do. And almost you haven't used of humans in your works. And whatever
never.
No,
never.
Exactly.
I refuse. I will never.
I know. And whatever we see, they are plants and animals. Talk to me about that, please.
I think, but I mean, that's probably a personal approach. But if you look at the art world in general, it's humans everywhere. It's like the thing that captures humans the most are humans. And that is a very egocentric, self-centered vision of the world, because humans are just like a part of a bigger world. And in that sense, I feel like it's just a bit redundant to always focus on humans, especially since right now, or the environmental issue is not just about us, it's also about all the rest that we're destroying. And so that's the first thing. I'm also not really interested in humans on a personal, like an artist, I'm not interested in the human figure. So that also plays a role, of course. It's just like, I don't really care about drawing humans. I never did. So that's, again, very personal. Nothing wrong, of course, with that. With drawing figures, human figure, if you're interested in that, but I'm not interested in that. And yeah, what I find most interesting is what we leave behind. It's like my world is a bit of a post-apocalyptic world where maybe humans just are not there anymore. And that's why it's thriving. Everything that is left are the objects or the buildings or whatever. And nature is coming back, but there are no humans. And that's why it kind of works, because if you look at it very objectively, we are the problem right now on Earth. And so in that sense, I don't see a human in that specific world I'm creating, for now at least. Maybe in 10 years I'm doing something else, but yeah.
I love the way you're talking. I'm just throwing my questions away and you can talk.
Yeah.
That's very, very interesting. And also I found one of the highlighters that you use in your work, as you mentioned earlier, is different mushrooms. Why mushrooms? Tell me.
I mean, I know many people think that I take mushrooms as a drug, which I don't. Yeah, I've had that question a lot. I'm sorry. I just want to get that out of the way, because when in the art shows I did, people often look at me and like, you're doing mushrooms. I'm like, No, I don't really do drugs, like any kind of drugs. So that's not the reason. even though I can understand why they think that because of the colors and all. But no, it was very pragmatic at first. Mushrooms, when you sculpt, mushrooms are kind of pleasant to sculpt because they're like fleshy, and when you do sculpture, everything that is a bit fleshier is nice to sculpt. So that kind of was the start. But then the more I read about the environmental question or the environment in general, the more mushrooms made sense. For so many reasons, I could talk an hour about mushrooms, but yeah, they're very important part of ecosystems, of any ecosystems really. In forests, they are kind of like the internet of the forest, helping trees communicate among each other. They are more and more used by humans as well to replace other things, like you have mushroom leather, you have mushroom meat, so to speak. So it's a very interesting type of life on Earth that goes beyond just like, and I personally think they look pretty, and I'm a bit weird in that sense. Like, I'm not too much into flowers. I prefer like insects and mushrooms. Visually, I find them more interesting. But yeah, that's just me, I guess.
I love it. I love it. So now I want to take you back to years ago, like when you had no clue about art, painting, sculptures. And because when I was looking at your pictures on Instagram, I started noticing like you were making your work, your earlier works were looked like miniature, you know.
Yeah,
And
I was doing miniature food.
exactly.
I can show you after, because the challenge I was talking about before, like the daily challenge where I would make one fruit or vegetable every day, I have it, so I can show you later how it looked like. So I kept that one, but yeah, I used to do that. Weird. Yeah.
No, and I can see that the progress. I can see that how your taste probably gradually changed.
It's not just that. I mean, yes, of course, I think, but then if you look at artists throughout history, they go through phases. You know, usually it always starts with realism, and then something, they get bored, and then they change, and then something happens in their life and they change. So I feel it's quite natural as an artist to change. It's just in today's society, we have the tendency of putting artists into boxes. So it's like that artist does that, but that's not how it works. Like 5 years from now, I'm probably going to do something a bit different, maybe completely different. I have no clue. You cannot say that in advance, but I think it's quite natural to change. And to be honest, it's the only way to make good or interesting art. If you have to be very honest with yourself, you know, you have to be, I always see that as a bit of a selfish way to live, but in a good way. You know, you have to like be very focused on what you are interested in and to give your vision of the world in your artwork. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to make something of interest, if that makes sense.
Of course it does. So you have to believe in yourself first and what you do, and the rest come along. So that's very understandable. And now I want to take you back 2 years ago, before you really knew, before you really knew about painting, sculpture, miniatures, and these sort of things. What happened? What kind of environment you grow up that led you to become an artist, you know, at the end of the day? Tell me what happened.
I think, and probably most artists will tell you that, but I've always done something with my hands. I always drew, and then I remember as a teenager, as a kid, I already wanted to become an artist, a painter, because I love to draw, and so that was like my life goal as a tiny kid.
Why?
It's just when you get bored, you do something, and in my case, it's art. I think it's just how your brain is wired. It's like some people who love to cook. They love to cook from small one. So maybe it's because, you know, their parents cook a lot or whatnot. I don't know. In my case, I cannot say my mom worked in a bank, so she can draw, and she's very creative in her own way. But I cannot say that she was painting at home or something like that. It was nothing like that. But I'm a single child. That might also play a role, because I used to be with myself a lot. and we all know that for artists it's good to know how to be with yourself a lot. So that might have played a role. And I don't know, it's just like, honestly, I think it's really how your brain works. Like, I think any human is creative, but we all have different creative streaks. Like, one might be more into storytelling, one might be more into cooking, one might be into building or writing, or I don't know, any kind of things. So I think it's a very inherent thing about humans, that we tend to be very creative and we like to create something, but everyone is a bit different on what and how. So I just happen to like to create with my hands.
And you're doing it perfectly. I'm sure lots of people say that to you. You're doing it perfectly. So, and okay, and you said that you became a vegetarian. Am I right?
Yeah, mostly vegan, but yeah, I'm not perfectly vegan because I'm not perfect.
Was it the same time that you started to see, I'm sure you started to see the things differently, particularly, you know, towards animals, and was it the same, which year was it? Which year you became like a vegan? What year was that?
I mean, for me, it was not like from one day to another. So, and honestly, I mean, I don't know enough people who change, but I think it's rare that people change from one day to another. It's like people who do YouTube videos and talk about vegans, they tend to say that I just changed overnight. I'm like, that's great. But I don't think that's something that is realistic, so to speak, because you have to learn to cook all over again, and you have to change so much things. And often you don't want to go vegan from overnight. It's very rare that people like drastically change. And for me, when I started, basically what first happened, I think it was back in 2013 or 14. I don't recall, but a friend of mine told me that meat production was the worst in terms of environmental impact, and was like, okay. And then I just looked into it, and it was like, oh, yeah, it's really bad. It's like, not just in terms of environmental impact, but also like animal rights and production in general. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's not news anymore now in 2020.
No.
But yeah, and so what I did in the beginning was just to eat a lot less meat, because I'm one of those people who would eat meat every day. And so then I decided to eat meat just once a week, and I would order it locally. And it's going to be very gory, but basically when you would order the meat, it would be killed for you. So it was, okay, I mean, local meat and all of that, probably better than industrial meat, but you're still killing animals. So, yeah, anyway, and at some point we were eating so little meat that I was not digesting it really anymore. So when I would eat meat, I would feel a bit sick, and was like, I mean, what's the point of eating meat once a month? You know, just like makes no sense. And was like, should we just stop eating meat? And my boyfriend looked at me like, we hardly eat it anyway. So then I just stopped, and so we went vegetarian. And then later on, like at some point I was completely vegan, but it just didn't work out for me. I would be tempted by certain foods all the time, and then I would eat them and then hate myself for it. So then that was not very productive. So I just kind of switched it again a bit. So yeah.
That's very interesting. And the reason that I brought that question up, because did you say was it the same year that you started to to discredit objects into the art? Am I right? Was it the same year that you started doing that?
No, it was much, much earlier. It was before I did the miniature, the daily mini veggie challenge. Because that was like the point where I was vegan at that moment, or almost. And then I wanted to talk about it. And then I was on and off, like, again, I've been mostly vegan for like since 2015, but I have exceptions, and more, I'm probably a bit closer to vegetarian than vegan, but still, I would say I'm like 90% vegan. I know it's like, I know technically, it depends on people, but vegans can be very harsh on other people that are not perfect. But I feel like vegan is kind of the goal, you know, but it's, for many of us, it's kind of difficult. And so I'm like, I'm not perfect, but I'm like, this is the general direction and I'm doing my best, but I have those exceptions, and just, this is going to be more sustainable for me. And I prefer like being imperfect, but like consistent, than just like giving up altogether because I'm not perfect.
No. I thought that probably these two are linked to each other, but yeah, thank you very much for explaining. So,
Yeah.
let's do something. Let's do something. I want to ask you a favor. I would like to grab your phone and show us around. Take us around.
Yeah, I will do that. So let's switch it on the other side, and this is it.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is my studio. So I'm just going to show you like in general how it looks like. So I have like a lot of natural light, so that's really nice. And I work from home, so basically this here is the limit here of my studio, and after that, that's my home. So yeah, it's we have a lot of natural light, and this is why we got this house, because it's really nice to work in. As you see, the light is pretty amazing. So this is something I've been working on lately. It's I started last year, and it's colored pencils and ink. So I don't know if you, you've probably seen it, but I use dip pen and ink. So this is all dip pen and ink. And then I use colored pencils. And this is actually, I called it improved desktop, because as you can see, there's a screen, and here is a computer tower, and you have a little mouse here. And then here you have, I don't remember how it's called. It's not keyboard.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'm working on this right now. It's mostly for fun, to be honest, but yeah, it's huge. And in terms of,
hang on. Before you go that way, I want to see the details. Can you take yeah.
So yeah, you have like tiny bugs, some mushrooms here. I like to mix things up. So this is actually something that you would find under the sea, and this actually as well. This is inspired from corals, that too from brain corals. And then you can see flowers here. I'm a bit less into flowers, but like weird flowers I can do. Yeah, and then more insects. And this is from an anemone, also seaside, wow, that I really like. And then we have a tree over there that hasn't been.
That's right. That's okay. Wow.
And we have like more mushrooms here, and then see here, more mushrooms here. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. So perfect. Lots of details with a tiny bug here.
Perfect.
So yeah, it's pretty big. And the other thing I'm working on right now are books. So I have a lot of different book sculptures. So this is one of them. So I just stacked 4 books, and I carved them, and I started, and I want to have a rainbow on this one. And it's going to be coral-like, but these days I'm super slow. So I start on things, and then and then I put them aside and just move on to something else, and I go back later. This is another book. It changed a lot, this one. I started to have a caterpillar going out of it, but the caterpillar, I'm going to show you quickly. So sorry. So here I have like the mostly finished sculptures, but just the caterpillar here. So that one. So this one here. So it's also on books. So this one used to be here, coming out of the pages, but I didn't really like it, and I painted this in the colors of the caterpillar, but it just looked bad. So I decided to cover everything in white, and now I'm going to do more of a forest themed book with, like, I started with the leaves here, and yeah, I have also started to do a lot of different tiny things that I'm going to add one by one. So yeah, that's it. Then we have this one, which I haven't quite finished yet. It used to be another artwork of mine, actually. All the mushrooms and everything here were on a panel that I had. I can show you quickly because I haven't. But all the mushrooms used to be on this, you see. So basically, everything that you see here, it used to be mushrooms, but I didn't like that. So I removed everything and I upcycled it into a new artwork. So yeah, I'm really into upcycling my own art these days. So I do that. I still need to kind of finish it off, paint it, and probably needs something on top to kind of finish it off. But again, like with the book, I'm not sure yet, so just waiting. And the one that has taken me 2 months by now, I think, is this one. So this is really weird. Because it's like you have roots and then you have wings. So it's like pure contradiction, you know. It's like half bird, half tree. What was I thinking? I don't know. But yeah, I started one evening. I had a bad day. And I started to sketch in my sketchbook, and for some reason, this came out. And the next day I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. That's kind of, so this might seem weird, but when I have ideas, I don't try to assess if the ideas are good or not. I'm just doing them. And once they're done, I'm like, yeah, that was a garbage idea. But at least I'm doing them. So this is a bit like that. So you have all the roots that come out, and you have lots of details. And I'm still going to add a little bit more details. I already made these tiny things. I see you have a question, no?
Yes. I'm just wondering that what's the concept about, and what do you want to convey? What's the message you want to convey through that piece?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I honestly had no idea. I just wanted to work on books. And so I was just doodling around. But the more I work on it, the more it's clear that the piece is about contradiction. And as you're a human, like I am, you probably know that we are made out of contradiction. So we like to be rooted somewhere. We like, to have some stability, but at the same time, we always want to fly away and to change things. So I feel like it's really about that, but it has been made in mostly an unconscious way, so subconscious way. If you see, like most of my art really is a bit subconscious. I do trust my subconscious a lot. So usually I do things and then I analyze them and I'm like, yeah, that's what you wanted to say with that. So sometimes it's clear, when I use trash, obviously, just like it's not rocket science. But when I do different things like that, sometimes I'm not sure myself where I'm going with it. So yeah.
It's all about the creativity.
Exactly. So yeah, more tiny details everywhere. So as you see, it's not quite finished yet. Here, it's missing a bit of life, but yeah, it's getting together.
And whatever you used in that sculpture is
materials.
What materials? That's all recycled?
No, that would be nice, but no. It's actually quite difficult to use only recycled materials. I never really managed. So the book is recycled or upcycled. I found all these books that I used in London. I was in a short art residency in London beginning of this year. And I wanted, originally I had another idea for the books, but let's not dwell on that. And I found this bookstore that would sell old books, and they would sell them, I think, £0.50 or £1 the book. I was like, deal, I'm just going to take all the hardcover books, you know, all these, and just take that with me. And when I explained to the bookshop owner what I was going to plan with them, he was like, oh, I'm going to like make half of it. It's going to cost you half. And so I paid a ridiculously low price for those books, which I haven't read. It was really less about the content than the object. I tend to be more interested in the object. So yeah, those are all upcycled. But no, the rest, I use a lot of different clays now. I try to use more and more paper because it has a bit of a lower impact. And I use a lot of wire as well because it's a bit sturdier. So yeah, it's a lot of different materials. It's actually, the more I work, the more complex it becomes. I use a lot of different clays. I try to find clays that are more environmental friendly. But again, it's a bit difficult. Every clay has some kind of glue into it because otherwise it's not going to hold. And I try to be a bit, how should I say that? It's very little clay and material that I use for the time and the object. So, you know, I kind of think, okay, it might not be 100% recycled, but even when you do recycled work, you will still use new materials like glue or new things or paint or whatnot. So it's very difficult to use just recycled materials. And I'm kind of, you know what I mean? Maybe. So yeah, that's about it. And yeah, to finish off, these are the sculptures that are finished. So we have a few bottles in here. The ones that I have left because I sold most of them. But yeah, I have this tiny panda here that, yeah, I sculpted it myself. So everything you see, I do myself. So I don't buy anything. I do everything from scratch. So the flowers, the mushrooms, I do everything. I know some sculptors, they buy flowers, like paper flowers or things like that. But I'm a bit of a purist for that, I guess. I prefer to do everything myself because I have better control on colors and shapes.
Absolutely. So, absolutely.
Yeah. And then I have a bit older work with these mantises that are dancing on a vinyl. And then here a can that I actually, it was when I was in London and I just picked up cans and cleaned them very well before adding a lot of growth on top of them. And yeah, here another can. And then I have another polar bear here onto some black goo. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think up.
They're all your paintings, am I right?
Yeah, this is one of my paintings. It's a small one. I can show you more of my paintings.
Yes,
wait.
Yes, I want to see that more.
I have to wait. I'm going to put you here for a while just to get it out. So you have a beautiful view of my deck.
And lots of people ask me why I turned off my comments. If you're familiar, no, I'm just answering some of people. I always turn off my comments because I want to have an easy and nice conversation with my people. But the question option is open, so you can send any questions you have from. So I always turn off my comments. So if you have any questions, you can just shoot it, and then I will. If I get a chance, I will read it to my guest.
Okay, so this is something I finished quite recently. I worked with Pangea Seed to work on threats to marine life. So this one is about ocean acidification. So ocean acidification is probably one of the worst problems that ocean life is facing. It's due to pollution, and what happens is that when water turns too acidic, it's starting to not melt but disintegrate everything that is bony, and so it just kind of dissolves it. That's the word. It dissolves everything that is bony, and also that's also skeletons. So everything is touched by it, and it's quite a huge problem. So that was about this. Then I made another one about the warming seas. So when corals die, they bleach because they lose all their algae. So yeah, the difference in temperature in the ocean turns the corals first white, and then they end up dying. But it can be reversed if you can manage, and I mean it's a huge topic. But yeah, so that was the second one. Then I worked on two coastal development. So coastal development is also a problem because most life is actually living, most marine life is actually on coastal areas. So the more humans come onto their habitat, the less space they have, and yeah, depletion of habitat is never really a good thing. Sorry.
That's fine. So actually, the most of your paintings, particularly this one, it looks like 3D. And
like trees, you said?
That is like 3D, you know, like a demonstrational 3D. And that's very interesting. Like, I can see everything by details. And I love that. Amazing.
So yeah, I'm really into small details. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Wow.
And the last one I made for them was about overfishing. Wow. So this is a bottom trawler, which is, again, not the best way to fish. And then I just made a shoal of fish that would just go around. And I called it reverse fishing. And it ends up into a jellyfish.
Oh my God.
So actually for that one, I really had to study boats a lot. So what I do, I do that more and more now, but I really try to study. I really like to study things before I start drawing them or sculpting them. So I really tried to, you know, do a lot of references to understand how the boat was made, so I could do this. So I spent, you know, a day just like trying to figure out how is this thing even working, where does it go, and then trying to, you know, find a way to put it into perspective. So yeah, but that was interesting because I don't often have that kind of references. Now this is a painting I made when I was. I'm not too fond of this one. So
why?
Yeah, it just I feel like it's not working. So just like maybe a perspective thing, maybe I don't know. It's just too much. I'm every time I put it out, I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't really like it. So another thing I'm really interested in is natural history. And this was, I read books about insects sometimes, and this one specifically was about parasitic wasps and how they lay their eggs into caterpillars. And so this is the painting, and I called it Embrace because at the same time, it's an act of what you would call love in terms of humans, because the wasp is making sure her kids are going to have enough food and shelter and grow up. At the same time, from a human perspective, it's a bit shocking. We don't really like parasitism, but yeah, it's a huge part of nature. So yeah, I did this tiny painting. And this one I did for World Environment Day this year. And so, well, I mean, it's pretty, self-explanatory. So yeah, trash and corals.
Well done. That's amazing.
I mean, that's the most interesting I have right now. I don't The rest is not.
That's more than enough.
Yes.
And I'm
So yeah.
I don't want to make you tired.
No, that's fine. That's just my wall, basically. So this is a print. I don't have the original anymore. I sold that one, but I quite like caterpillars, so I made a series of them. So those are all prints. I sold all of these. But yeah, I quite like them, so I wanted them on my wall, so I kept them. I also have prints of these because I wanted to work on that again. But I haven't had the energy for it, the time and the energy. So yeah.
Thank you.
So that's about it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so very much. I love that one.
Yeah. It's the one that I made. Oh, I didn't show you the miniatures. I was saying before that I wanted to show you. But yeah, so that was the challenge that I made in 2000. I'm just going to put my hands to it. It's really tiny. So I made that challenge in 2015, and I did it for 233 days, so not the whole year, because I thought it was enough, and it already took a lot of my time. So yeah, that's everything I did that year. Kind of crazy, isn't it? Look at that tiny pineapple. It's really small.
That's like,
and then you have nuts here. See, you have peanuts and yeah, it's
wow. Amazing. Well done. Wow.
Yeah, and those are other things that I made, but
well done. Well done. Oh my, well done. Thank you so very much, Arlene. So I'll let you to fix the camera.
Yeah, I'm going to go back.
Amazing. I wish I was there and I could touch them and feel them. One day I will be there.
Well, you might, because I have a solo show in Melbourne in 2022. So if I can, then I would like to do residency there, but you know, with the pandemic, and I don't know how. So don't. But you should see my work at least. So that's something.
Course. So you know me at least here in Melbourne. So
yeah, you said that yesterday. I remember.
There you go. So you have had, that's very interesting, because my question is quite related to what we're talking about. So you have had several exhibitions outside of France or Germany. So, and one of them was in Australia. What usually people, when they come across your work, what is the first things they usually tell you about your work? And also, why do you think people are interested in your work?
I think most people are interested or are awestruck by skills. So when they see something that they know they cannot do, they are impressed. And I think that's also part why, you know, there was a huge chunk in the art history where artists kind of refused to do realism and refused to do skillful artwork. So they might be able to, but they would just not do it, kind of because they wanted to free art, which has its own reason or sense. But nowadays you can see more and more people going back to very skilled artworks. So I think it's also because people just enjoy that more than if it's just a splash of color onto a canvas, you know. It's like, because they can see the time and effort that was put into it, and so it's very accessible in that way. Whereas when you have conceptual art, people just look at it and they're like, okay, you know, some people love it, and I don't say it shouldn't exist. I mean, all kinds of arts are important because everyone has another sensibility, but I feel like for most people, when they see something skilled, it's more accessible. They can understand it. They can understand, you know, the hours it took, the effort. And so just for that, they're like, oh yeah, I like that, because, you know, they can see that. And then the other thing is I work with a lot with rainbows. People love rainbows. It probably has something to do with the light, you know, maybe like our brain is meant to like rainbows or something. It's just like, I have no idea, maybe not. But it might. Yeah, so that's usually the reaction I see when I see it, because it's not often like the exhibitions. Most exhibitions are group shows, and people, I don't see those people, but I cannot go to all group shows.
Absolutely.
But when I do art shows, most people, when they see my work, usually it stops them in their track. Like they look and you're like, oh, you know. So that's kind of the reaction they have, and then they often cannot quite comprehend it. It's like sometimes like, but you did it yourself. I'm like, yes. And they're like, you really did that? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, how? And I think it's something a bit magical for most people. You know, when you see an artwork and you just cannot understand, how is it possible to do something like? For most artists, it's not magical, because we know we all have touched more or less things, so we can appreciate like the effort and the skills and the time, but it's not magical for us. We're like, yeah, it's just, you know, you put a lot of hours into it, and but for people who don't do art, it's magical, and I think that's why it has that, you know, resonance to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Stephanie, it was such amazing conversation with you.
Well, glad you liked it.
I loved it, and so glad, because we've been in touch over the past few months, and I'm so glad we had this conversation, and I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah,
And
it was fun.
yeah, but before I'm going to wrap it up this conversation, do you want to add something? Do you want to say something that probably I didn't ask you?
Well, if you want to see change in the world, you have to change yourself first. That's all.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's it.
Exactly. So did you like our conversation?
Yeah, very much so. It was interesting. It's fun. And you're such an upbeat person, very cheerful.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time. I hope to meet
thank you for your work.
Thank you. So I hope to meet you one day in reality, as I've said.
Yeah, never know. The Earth is really tiny, so.
Exactly. I will catch you soon, and have a wonderful day ahead.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.